So the formal way to define these things is in terms of decision problems, which comes in chapter 3.2.3. So this is where we meet decision problems. And the classes, our two favorite classes, P and NP. So a decision problem intuitively is just one with a yes or no answer. So that's the intuition that I want you to have, and we'll be a little more formal about it. So a decision problem is one with a yes or no answer. For example, is this number prime? Would be a decision problem. It's one with a yes or no answer. The formal way we define this is in terms of what we call a language over an alphabet. So let me motivate that with this example of a decision problem. Is this number prime? Let's call that number n. And how could we get some traction on this? We could represent n in binary. For example, n being, let's use a small number, 2, 0, 0, 1, 0. So our alphabet is going to be sigma, denoted sigma, and that'll be the set of binary numbers, 0, 1. We'll call this our alphabet. And we're going to consider the set of all finite strings over this alphabet. And we'll use the following notation to indicate that. Sigma star. So sigma with a superscript asterisk is a set of all finite strings of characters, symbols from this alphabet. So for example, that would be 0, 1. Those are all the strings of length 1. Then it would be 0, 1, 1, 0. Well, I could start at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, and so on and so forth. So this sigma star is the set of all finite strings over this alphabet. And we're going to call a subset of this, subset of sigma star, a language on the alphabet sigma. So for example, using this question, this decision problem, is the number n prime, we would be interested in the following language, L being defined as the set of all binary numbers, or just numbers p, such that p is prime. Okay. And formally, the way we do a decision problem is then we ask if this input n is in this language. So is n in L would be the way that you formally define a decision problem. This is what we're going to use to state our complexity classes. And the first one is P. So definition of our first complexity class. I'm just going to write a problem. I'll include it in parentheses, decision problem. So throughout today and throughout the normal discussion of computational complexity, it's understood that we're talking about decision problems when we say problems. Okay? So a decision problem of input size n is in the class P, so we're defining the complexity class P, if and only if it can be solved in a time that scales polynomially. It can be solved in time order n to the k for some constant k. Okay? So P standing for polynomial. polynomial, we can use our big O notation from last time. So if it can be solved in time that's bounded above asymptotically by some n to the k, some polynomial, then we say that is a problem that is in P, can be solved in polynomial time. Okay. The next class, so these are the two that you sort of absolutely must remember. Hopefully you've seen them before. Same thing, a decision problem. Is in the class NP if its solution can be verified in polynomial time. So a decision problem is NP if given a solution. So what do I mean by a solution? That would mean a yes answer to this decision problem. So something being in the language. If given the solution, it can be verified in I'll just write polynomial time. And again, that means order n to the k for some k. So, question for you, what is the relationship between these classes? One of them is a subset of the other one. It's going to be the case that clearly P is a subset of NP. Why is that? Well, if I'm able to solve a problem in polynomial time, I'm certainly able to check that it's a solution in polynomial time. Okay? How would I verify that it's a solution? I would just run the algorithm for solving the problem, and that takes polynomial time. Okay? So the other direction appears to be less clear. So whether NP is a subset of P, implying that P is equal to NP, is open. This is one of the famous clay problems, millennial problems. So you get $1 million if you figure out this one, and a lot more than that in terms of the other things that you would get. So let's see an example of a problem that's in NP. We'll see several today, but the one I want to start with is Sudoku. So I think this is an intuitive one. So how many people have seen Sudoku? Yeah, so we're always considering it, the size of the board varying, and so we'll call the size of the board n here. And Sudoku looks something like this, at least a 3x3 case. You have to fill out every row, every column, and every square with the numbers for 3x3 at least, 1 through 9. So I could have something that looks like this. And say this is 4, 6, 7, 3, 2, 1, and then 5, 9, 7, 8, 1, 6. Okay, so as long as I did this right, this row has the numbers 1 through 9. This column has the numbers 1 through 9, and then this square has the numbers 1 through 9. So given a board that starts, something like this, your task is to go through each square and fill out a number such that these conditions are satisfied. Every row, every column, and every square contains exactly once the numbers, the digits 1 through 9. So it might be hard to solve, but with NP, we're not asking about solving it. With NP, we're asking, given a solution, can I verify that it's a solution in polynomial time? So what do you think? Is this a problem that's in NP? If you're given a solution, could you verify that it's actually a solution in polynomial time? The answer would be yes. What would you have to do? The size of the board is n by n, but how many rows are there? There's going to be like n rows, so that's linear in n. How many columns are there? And then how many squares are there? So all those will be polynomial linear in n. So given this, you can check a solution is actually a solution in time polynomial in the input. Therefore, this is a problem that's in NP.